Hey guys, happy Friday. It's Jeff Arnold with another 5 Minute Friday. This is for Friday, May 1st, 2026. And a recent LinkedIn post that caught my attention was one that was highlighting some of the comments made by Naval Ravikant. Um, and if you're not familiar with him, as I was not, but he is somebody that was an early investor in Twitter, Uber, Notion, and about 200 other companies. So somebody that was can kind of see what's happening going into the future. So it's somebody that's worth listening to as far as what's happening in the industry right now. There's an article that I'll post in the comments here, both inside of YouTube and the comments inside of LinkedIn, so you can go read the full article if you want to. But basically what he was saying is that as we move forward, the world is going to change dramatically as it relates to software. So what he's saying is that you will no longer be beholden to one piece of software to be your CRM, or a single piece of software will not have the protection that it typically does now in the space. Meaning, if you have a piece of software, I'll just pick something at random, but if you have a piece of software, like let's say Bullhorn, for example, before in the previous prior to AI world, Bullhorn had its biggest advantage in the fact that it was well developed, fully built software. It had all the bells and whistles that you may need or whatever. But inside of that process, their protection as a company was the fact that they had taken all of that time and energy to develop this software. But now, what's happening with the introduction of AI and Claude AI and Codex and all of these systems that allow you to build software on the fly very quickly and very accurately, even if you're not really a coder, means that the protection they had, as and in the investment world is called moat, right? The moat they had around them is that their software was fully developed. Now that moat is going away because you can develop things using Claude Code and Codex and things like that very quickly. You can rapidly create these items. So in the article, they're saying you have about 18 months before the whole world changes and you're not going to need your software, et cetera, which I think is way overkill, right? There's a lot of hyperbole there. Um, but it really goes into like what we do for clients and what we see with our clients as well. So what we do and what we've been building for our clients is we've been helping them work on connecting all of their pieces of software. So somebody has an ATS system, they have an HRIS system, they don't talk to one another, their calendars don't talk to that process, their storage, their Dropbox, their Google Drive, whatever it may be, none of those things are connected, right? They're all disconnected out there. And what we've been working with them mostly on doing is bringing that all together so that we are able to mesh that together so that they don't have to switch from one piece of software to the other. There's not a lot of time lost in context switching to jump back and forth. Well, what we are seeing now that kind of plays into this article, and again, I think it's hyperbole to say that there's 18 months and we're out the window, but what we've been seeing now is that we are now custom developing software for our clients. So clients that may have had 3 or 4 smaller pieces of software that were doing certain specific tasks, we can now work on building a custom piece of software that replaces those smaller pieces. They're still going to use their what I'm going to call their pillar pieces of software, right? So if you work with an ATS and an HRIS, you'll still probably work with those two big pillar pieces. But now if there were a bunch of smaller pieces of software that were filling in the blanks of the things that were missing, now what we can do is we can work on a custom piece of software that will give you exactly what you need. An example is we had a client that they had an e-commerce website, they had forms on their website, they had data being saved inside of a Google Sheet, they have information that's inside their Dropbox. And so what they were doing was they were using all of these tools and plugins for their WordPress website. They were using these tools and plugins to be able to get the data where they needed it inside Google Sheets and then feed it into their CRM and then trigger automation for marketing inside of other systems. So all of that stuff was connected on the back end, but it wasn't one cohesive piece of software. So what we then built for them was we built them a custom portal. So their clients could log into the portal. We replaced all of those little pieces of software and built it all natively into that one piece of software. They still lived with their e-commerce website. We weren't trying to replace all of that. They still lived with their CRM because that's where they kept all of their data. And they still lived with Dropbox, which is where they had their actual documents. But instead of having all of those other individualized pieces that were all over the place, we consolidated that down into one single portal for them to be able to work with. And that is the direction I personally think is going to we're going with the things that we're doing. We're not going to have to connect all of those smaller pieces of software. We're going to be able to develop a piece of software that does exactly what you want, because right now there is no perfect piece of software out there, right? No matter what you're looking to try to accomplish, there's not one off the shelf, oh, this is what I need, I can deploy it today. That's not there. So that's where we've lived, is connecting software. And now, with the ability to create in Claude Code and create custom things, we're able to more rapidly and more efficiently and more cost effectively be able to provide our clients with the exact piece of software with the exact tools that they need built in, still using those pillar pieces at their core. Um, so the article is really interesting to be able to read through and see what he thinks is going to be happening with the industry. And I believe that is the direction things are going, absolutely. However, I don't think that we're looking at the 18-month time frame that they're talking about, where the whole world is upended by this entire new AI way of building. Um, so anyway, that's kind of where we work. We work with our clients, we get in with you guys, and we work with you directly. We find out what's going on with your operations, and we work to help you identify where you can be more efficient, deploy those efficiencies, and end up saving you a lot of money during the process. So anyway, if you're interested in an audit, that's what we do. We call it our ops map, which is basically us going through and auditing your whole process. I will include other links in here as well for my workbook. I have a free copy of the workbook if you're interested. There's a one-pager as well that you can use inside your industry, inside your business, to be able to go through and look at the individual jobs that you have and be able to go through and mark down what's going on with those people and be able to identify areas where you could save money if you were to work on automating some of those processes. So remember, 10 minutes a day saved is 1 week per year. So please reach out if you have any questions. Hopefully this has been informative to give you a little bit of information of where we think the industry is going. And yeah, if you need help with deploying any of that, please reach out to us. We'd love to work with you. Thanks so much.